Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Podcast. It's Memorial Day week, but we persevere. And there's a lot to talk about in regards to Ohio State football, what's coming, what could be coming down the road for Ohio State in a recruiting game. And, of course, I'm talking about, the still ongoing pursuit of JT Tuimoloau, defensive end from the state of Washington. You can read the tea leaves all you want, and maybe read that maybe Ohio State could be second in the chase to run him down. Obviously, he will be eligible for the 2021 season, probably the last great leaf hanging on that tree. And Ohio State would definitely like to get him. And in that regard, I'm going to be talking with our resident expert on recruiting, Jeremy Birmingham, at lettermenrow.com. We're going to break that down a little bit more. And, he's been doing that the last several weeks. But what is Ohio State's real chance at getting the last real plum of the 2021 recruiting class? But before that, I'm going to have a conversation with Dr. Corey M. Teague. You remember him? I've had him on. I had him on several times last year during the pandemic shutdown, whatever you wanted to call it, when Ohio State parents were among the many groups that were fighting to have a football season in the fall for the Big Ten. And basically got him on to react to what came out a week ago from the emails, et cetera, that were exchanged during that time between the Big Ten and, I guess, Dr. Christina M. Johnson, the president of Ohio State, and Gene Smith in the pursuit of having that season, and the idea that the Football Parents Association of Ohio State were led into a manufactured assault on the Big Ten office and the Big Ten commissioner. I want to get his take because I knew it was going to be a good one. So without further ado, let's move on to my conversation with Dr. Corey M. Teague, a.k.a. the father of Master Teague III, Ohio State running back. Turn performance, encore performance. It's 3 or 4 encores, isn't it, Dr. Corey M. Teague, on the Tim May Podcast? You and I got to know each other pretty well last fall when shenanigans were going on, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. So thanks for having me again, the invitation. That's not something you have to do. And so I appreciate the invitation.
Oh, no, man. I appreciate you coming on, especially this week. It's Memorial Day holiday, maybe is what they may call it. But, it's a kind of a day when you remember those who've given their lives for our country this week and stuff. And but I wanted to move on with a situation that came up last week, as you're well aware of, that it was revealed through an email dump through Freedom of Information Act that, in fact, during that time when you guys meaning you parents, the Football Parents Association of Ohio State, had written a letter and were pretty concerted in your efforts to try to get a fall football season. At one point, the commissioner of the Big Ten, Kevin Warren, referred to it as a manufactured effort by Ohio State, meaning, everybody was in cahoots. It was almost a conspiracy to try to bring pressure on the Big Ten and the commissioner, no matter whether it was or not. It worked. But what was your reaction when you heard that? Because of, I just remember I had you on my podcast last year a couple of times just talking about y'all's efforts, and just kind of what was your reaction to hearing that it was sort of being scoffed at to begin with, at least?
Well, I'd say my first reaction was to just try to figure out where was this coming from, in the sense of, how did this information become known to us? And like you said, it was some messages that were sent. And so my initial response is, I was trying to just clarify in my own mind what's happening today with that sentiment, but then understanding that this was something that happened during that time. And then so the claim that it was manufactured, I'm thinking, well, manufactured by who? Who is this? Who is he saying manufactured this? And then so I'm thinking, well, is that a true statement, or is that a statement that is not quite true? So did he really feel like it was manufactured, or was that something that he was saying to and I'm, I hadn't landed anywhere on this. This is just me thinking out loud, just me thinking about it, because I know the response to, the parents speaking up was less than, professional, less than appropriate. So, I don't know if someone would make that statement to, now they have an alibi to, is the reason why they weren't responding, or did they truly believe it was manufactured?
Yeah.
But in the end, I do hope that it was realized that the letter was not manufactured. It was parents that were actually leading this charge. We would definitely consult with each other. We definitely would consult with our sons and the coaches, just to make sure that we weren't, our wishes and our desires to be outspoken weren't out of line. So to hear that it was thought of as being manufactured, I mean, that's unfortunate. But hopefully, that person, came around to understanding that it was not.
Yeah, I think the intent, the way I read it, was that there was the question of whether Ohio State was urging you parents to protest to the commissioner, to the Big Ten. You know what I mean? And that was what was interesting to me, was that but even if that had been the case, what would have been wrong with that? That's the way I looked at it, but I don't think that was the case. I mean, I remember talking to you on my podcast. I mean, you guys were, I don't know if incensed is the right word, just didn't really understand why the parents weren't being, the parents of these players, like you talked about, you kind of sign off in your mind a little bit of a waiver to let your son play football in the first place. Remember, we talked about that. I mean, because things can happen, as you and your son have found out, things can happen when you play football, and some of them aren't good. And I think that was y'all felt almost like you were screaming into the wind at one point, didn't you? I mean, that had to be the feeling.
Oh yeah, that was, when you reflect on that, someone even said, some wounds, that information coming out opened some wounds. It does have you to reflect again. And when you think about that time, it's just like, man, you beating a dead horse almost, in the sense of you got getting a response. And I would say, and if I hadn't already said it, us parents, we got together frequently through text, through phone, through, and all of that was our things that we talked about and prayed about and decided to, this is what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so then we talked to our sons about it. We talked to, so no one came to us and said, hey, you need to start fanning some flames here. It was, I mean, that's farthest from the truth as it was. It was definitely parent initiated. I just don't, even if it wasn't like you said, I might have had questions if we didn't want to be on board with that. I think we just wouldn't have been on board with it. I don't think the coaches would have, definitely motivated something like that if we weren't on board with it, but they did not. And so we definitely initiated it. And I did read the letter that we responded to this incident of the information being leaked. I looked at that letter. I'll tell you, I wasn't a part of that one. I was a part of the one that we wrote back in the fall. Yeah. There's just so many of us. And so we take turns as far as, how we involved, but they do send it out, and if anyone disagrees, then we can talk about that. But I think the letter was appropriate in the sense of just restating, what we were trying to do, and that we just want to do better.
Yeah. You're a professor at the Middle Tennessee State University. You've got all kinds of things going on in your life, but what did you learn? If you had to teach a lesson on what went on last fall, what would be sort of the gist of it about y'all's fight for your son's right to play football? I didn't mean to rhyme all that, but what did you learn most of all, Dr. Teague, about just opening? Sometimes there is a moment when you have to open your mouth, and speak up. I mean, what did you learn from all of that?
Well, you just learn that, I do understand people can have different points of view. I do know that, but when it's on such a large scale like that, you really do. I think it just makes communication that more important. And I think you have to be able to look at all the different facets, and I'm trying to think from the point of view if I was a commissioner and dealing with schools and a lot of people, that I don't just I don't have a linear view about it. I'm only going to talk to these people and not these people, because you're going to miss something. And if you miss something that's pretty pertinent, and then you haven't truly unpacked the bag to see what's all in it. And so I think definitely, everyone that's involved, it's kind of like family therapy. If I'm doing family therapy, I gotta talk to everyone in the family.
Yeah.
I can't just talk to the dad and not talk to the children or the mom. I can't just talk to the kids and not. So we have to. You really need to have you need to get the whole system involved, so then you walk away with a true picture of what's going on and what people desire, and you may learn something that you didn't know. So.
Did you take pride? Yeah. Did you take pride in the way y'all responded as you look back on it now? Did you? What's that? What term would you use on finally getting your voice heard, et cetera? Because clearly y'all played a huge role in that, along with the parents from Nebraska and other schools that wanted it. Iowa. I don't know. Is pride the right word, or you just go, "Wow, why did it take so long"? I mean, what's the?
I'll tell you, man, I admire the parents,
Yeah.
and I have, a deeper respect for just, parental organizations. And I say respect for the ones that from the other schools, and how in the end, we just want the best for our sons. Yeah, they compete against each other and want to, beat each other up pretty good, which is, that's just the sport, right?
Yeah.
And so, but to be able to come together, that was pretty awesome. And so I admire it. I look back on it, and I'm thankful to see everyone's input, and even the our players, and of course with Justin, with what he did. And so it is I guess I can say it's a cherished moment, in the sense of just you have some adversity. It didn't feel good, but it's definitely something there where we had some adversity, and was able to push through and still hopefully keep our integrity intact in the process.
Wow. You kind of want to put 2020 behind you, what I mean, with as you gain 2020 vision into 2021 and stuff. But it is an interesting. I don't really like looking back too much myself, but the bottom line is y'all were effective, and your team, your sons did get to the national championship game. That's what I think Ryan Day was concerned about. What Gene Smith, and I had him on my podcast last week. We were talking about this was a special team, he thought, at Ohio State. And I'm not sure that team got to reach its full bloom, because of restrictions in practice, just all they dealt with and stuff. As you look back just on the football team, and, and your son, Master Teague III, starting running back, et cetera, returning this year and stuff. But did you feel like you got it ever got to, except maybe the Clemson game, ever got to see what that team was totally all about? If you follow my drift there, I mean,
no, I agree with that. I don't think we were able to see what they're all about. Just the structure of the season itself, and starting late, and but then then try and get your work in, and just the way things were structured was great for safety. But then the question marks, and then I'll just even say, we didn't play the team up north. And so, a lot of times that game shows us what we got. And I was teasing Master a little bit after the season and saying, well, I think are you going to return because you want to get another shot at them? And I know that's not the only reason he was returning, but that was a big hit, I think, when I think about the season. And like one game that we didn't get to play. And so, I do. I think that, man, it's a situation you had to adjust to. But, when you think about it from that aspect, of course, it's one of those seasons where you really wonder, did you reach your ceiling
Yeah.
As it relates to performance and just the team gelling and all that type of thing.
Hey, looking back, how proud? I don't know if proud of your son is the correct term. I always like to try to get the correct term, but I just throw a word out there and see what you think. But I mean, your son suffered an Achilles injury in March of last year, just before the COVID shutdown. And I don't know, how proud were you to watch him work so hard to get back on the field? But was he ever 100%, do you think, last year as you look back on it, Dr. Teague?
Yeah, it's hard to, I definitely was amazed and was thankful and, I guess too proud of him and his efforts to get back on that field after having that Achilles. And, Master has gone back and watched every game from last year. And he did say to me in a conversation, because it's hard to gauge, from my seat in the sense of watching him play on the field. And you definitely can see improvement, but if something is, he definitely believes that the Achilles didn't keep him from playing, didn't keep him from going at it his hardest, but just not having that training that you would have had, the spring training, and then having the full fall camp and stuff like that, and then going into a season, he definitely believes that that Achilles, if compared to if it didn't happen, slow. Yeah. But it wasn't bothering him. But it's just that if you understand football and progression of development, I think a player can tell. I'm not at my best right now, or at least in the season of the development that I'm in right now. And so I think he did see that, and does, even when he goes back and watch film, that those guys have taught to critique that film and not just look at highlights, but where was I? Just where can I do better? So, but I am proud of that, and I'm proud of how these guys got through the season, because man, this season was tough, and being a parent on the outside looking in and knowing your child and talking to other parents and how this emotionally draining this season was, and trying to isolate, and so basically all you're doing is football and classes. There's really not a lot of social going on, and that's draining, especially if you're a social person. I know Master's a little more introverted, but still, man, you definitely need to be able to be a well-rounded person. I know the situation didn't allow for that, but it was a tough season. It was roller coaster. But I do think these young men probably came out of that, man, it sharpened them, it stretched them, and so now they are probably in the position to handle adversity a little better.
Yeah.
And so that's the blessing of it. That's a silver lining in it. And then, like you said, we made it to the championship. And that's looking back at that and being able to do that. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And so all in all, comes together. It's not too ugly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. How primed is Master for this coming season? I mean, every time Ohio State drops a little nugget of him or a video of him and stuff, I'm not sure he's ever been in better looking shape, but how would you describe his hunger, his desire? Obviously he's got all those young guys around him and stuff, and they all want to play, how running backs think, I would think. Yeah. But how primed is he to for one of another term, show out this year?
Yeah, he's I can talk about some things that he's focusing on, but he is locked in. He's keyed in. From all aspects. Like I said, he went back and watched every game. After the season was over, he watched every game. He did some of that by himself. A couple of teammates maybe joined him a couple of times. He's been, of course, he continues to, Alfred and them continues to develop them within that aspect. And he also will spend time with Coach Day in the film room as well, just hearing those two. Master really doesn't have hasn't had a lot of, when we think about his progress and just his body, they teach those guys to be professionals with even in that, and just learning your body and knowing what's going on. And so he's really focused on that because a lot of his, if he has to miss practice or something like that, it's usually off-season stuff. It's not really something during the season. I know this past season, he bumped his head and had a little concussion there.
Yeah.
So he was, it's great though. We had, a backup there that could come in and do his thing.
Yeah.
And so that's great. And so, but he's learned that it's off-season stuff that maybe hinders him as it relates to going into practices. So, a guy his size and is fast and but as big as he is, you have the tendency to, and this is something he's sharing with me. So I'm sharing what he shared with me. You have the tendency to maybe put a lot of strain on, I guess, what they call small tissue.
Yeah.
Strain and stuff like that. So, he's definitely, man, he's been paying attention to that. He got the nutritionist lady to, she's making some meals for him, but at the same time, she's making some type of drinks and stuff for him too, for that hydration, because he's just definitely a sweater. And so he won't have those little small injuries that, kind of, ding. We say, oh, you got a little ding here, you got a little ding there. That stuff heals up. But if it causes you to miss, then, it's just causing you to, you got to try to catch up on your development. But, he's very healthy right now. And so he's focusing on that. And Masters, also, he's dialed in the sense of, because he's an overachiever. Mm-hmm. He's a competitor, and making them do a great job and with competition with those guys. And so so they compete a lot, even in the off season. They're competing. And Master, with his overachievement mentality, and he always wants to win, even in drills.
Yeah.
And so we had to talk about that. We talked about that as well. That because the Mickey and them also tell them to not overextend yourself. That's when you hurt yourself. And so to stay within himself when he's doing those drills, so when fall camp come, he's fully healthy, and he can get the full breast of that. I don't know if you probably remember, I think it was 2019 when JK's last year, I think I'm saying that, yeah, right. And, he missed some fall then.
Yeah.
Because of that. And then, of course, this spring, some things, but he is, with everything I'm just saying here with the film, with the, watching it with different people, watching them, his diet and his hydration. And then he's just going out there doing the work that he knows to do. He's already started watching film on Minnesota. He started that back in, I want to say the end of April, beginning of May. He's already watching film on them. So he's just, getting his mind right, and he's, hoping to have a great year.
Yeah, I was going to say, O.J. Simpson has quite the reputation for a lot of bad things, obviously. But one of the great things about him, when he was a running back, for example, a lot of people thought he had omnivision, but really he studied stuff so much. He kind of knew where defensive guys were going to be even before they did, That's part of the trick, right? Get hit as few times as possible and know where people are coming from. And people, I think they discount that about running backs. They just think they get the ball, see the hole and go, run through a tackle. But there is a lot of study involved for the ones who want to be elite, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You even hear Coach Day talk about in his interviews about making decisions on the field, having to be too reactive as opposed to that instinct. Sometimes you do have to react, but if you spending a whole game reacting, then you really not hadn't studied, hadn't done your job.
Yeah.
In the sense of, who am I playing against here, and understanding what they do, and so I'm he's dialed in, man. He's again, when you think about your kid, and you just amazed at some of the things that I'm sure some of that comes from his development up there. And when he talks to me about it, and I'm like, yeah, that's good stuff. And so they do a great job with those guys. And
Yeah.
You know, like you said, he got guys on the team that can be of help, and as you know, because one guy can't do that on his own, and I think that it just makes you, I don't know, it makes you better. I do, but I think I do always look back to that year, and JK's last year, he had a great year, and Master had a good year that year. But I think when you just have a good tandem there, the guy that's whoever, both guys do well. JK was able to, he was the guy, and he was the bell cow there. But to have someone behind you like that, I think it just makes you better. And so I think Master's situation, and he got, I hear different things about. There's a lot of guys in the room, and I guess we can say that it is, and they're all hungry, and they should be.
Yeah.
When you bring guys in, hopefully, and I'm sure at a program like Ohio State, they're wondering, are they expecting, they can see that this guy can come in and compete with the guys that are here. They may not, even if they don't win the day, they are competing. And so when it's their time, they're ready to go. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out with those guys, because it seems like definitely you have an opportunity to just continue to produce in the run game. So, because I know Master will be ready, and then I know we got the other guys that are there, like you said, with Mine and Crawley and Steele and Henderson and Pryor. Yeah. So it's that's you you got some heat there, and so that there's a blessing, and so that's good stuff. And with a new with quarterbacks and things, is that situation, which is I'm not saying it's a situation in a bad sense, but it's they'll be new to whoever's starting there will be new to that, but you got guys around you.
Yeah.
With our receivers and everything, from tight ends to receivers and linemen. It just looks nice. It looks good. I look forward to how it plays out. Master's always saying good things about his teammates and how they're working, and so he's optimistic and very, it's kind of like, man, we this and this may be better than the previous year. This and this may be better. So it's good things.
Yeah. I was going to say, if I was a quarterback, I wouldn't mind stepping in and driving that car. You know what I'm saying?
I'm telling you, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Racing truck really is what it is.
Man, that's, yeah. Just settle in and enjoy the ride on that one.
Yeah. Push the gas, baby. I want to talk to you real quick, man, about you. And, I'm continually seeing on Twitter and stuff and social media, you reaching out, you speaking to groups, et cetera. I know you've got this nice situation coming up where you're going to speak to a group in Hong Kong, as a matter of fact, halfway around the world, so to speak, but kind of bring people up to date where you are in that regard, and in what you're all about, other than just teaching, if you follow my drift. Yeah,
I do. The Lord has blessed me to do different things. It's I do teach, and I've been doing that for about 15 years. My wife and I, we have a practice as well where we do counseling, different types of counseling. We do assessment. We do our group. We do assessments for even like law enforcement, in the sense of people that's going to carry weapons. And so we do. Our office does things like that. And so we work with individuals and couples. But the Hong Kong situation is an opportunity that came my way just by keeping in contact with a gentleman I met probably about 10 years ago. He's from Hong Kong. He's the head honcho at the it's called Hong Kong Institute of Christian Counselors. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. And so he invited me to teach a family therapy course. And so I've been doing that for the last 2 weeks. We're doing it long distance, and it's been a great experience. It's been unique. It's been an experience that stretched me. You are teaching people who their first language definitely not English, so we're all in there, and we're they're trying to learn. I'm teaching, and I had to just, stay focused on my material and hopefully that they're getting. I do have an assistant in there that is kind of translate. So I do that. I've been invited to do that, and I hope to go over there to Hong Kong maybe next year.
Yeah.
Get my wife's blessing on that. Travel across the seas.
Yeah. That's always important, by the way. You know that, right?
Yeah, I gotta get her blessing on that, and that'd be a great thing. And then I've spoken at different places, here in the community as well. People invite you to talk about different things, go to talk with teams. I've spoken at churches. I've done that. So it's just a lot of different things. And so I also write books as well. So I've written books on different topics, from addiction to marriage to just a book itself on just psychology. And so I do different things, man. I just try to be guided in that. I'm a broad, I think big, but then I have to pray about things and kind of shrink it back into the sense of what I can handle with my time. Because it does take time, but I've actually been blessed that it really doesn't take too much time from the family. And so I still get to be with my kids and be with my wife, and so to make sure that their needs are met and that they are, especially with the kids, that the character is growing there. Yeah. And they going to be productive people as they age.
See, that's why I wanted to get your take on the Big Ten thing, because you struck me from the first time I met you that, wait a minute, Dr. Corey M. Teague's not going to be a manufactured, he's not going to be part of something unless he believes in that thing, no matter what anyone else would lead him to say. But I want to get back to something real quick. So you and your wife, y'all do assessments even on police officers. I mean, get back to that little part that you threw in there a while ago. I mean,
yeah, we do assessments. It's a process. It's about 3 hours. It's myself and my wife, and then Dr. named Dr. Beasley. But we do that. So if Rutherford County is hiring someone for the sheriff department there, they can be patrol. They could be going into the detention center. We also have a work center here, and so they come in and they have a structured interview.
Yeah.
And then where they have a battery of assessments that they do on the computer. We get all that information, and of course we interpret it, and so it's more than just one person looking at it. It's myself, and most of the time it's myself and Dr. Beasley, and then it's signed off on. It's person's qualified or not qualified, and we send it over to them, and then they make the decision based on, because they go through other things too, like background checks, interviews with the department. Sure. And so ours is sort of the last leg that they do, and it's been when I was we were asked to do it, that was also something I was proud to do, in the sense of, man, this is a way to give back to the community, in the sense of helping to put good people, people that are I'll use the word decent people, put decent people that want to be in law enforcement into the community, so because if our assessments is playing a big role on them being hired, then eventually they may be out in the community patrolling. And so hopefully we've helped our department, help the community to have decent people out there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, y'all are part of the solution, as the old saying goes. I mean, about everything that's gone on in this past year, including that aspect. That's very interesting to me, Dr. Teague. I mean, you do feel that, like you said, you feel almost an obligation to be part of that, right? If you get the shot to be.
Oh yeah. That opportunity, you want to turn it down, in the sense, especially if we competent in that, if we have the competence to do it. And I did want to bring some people on, and not just myself, in a sense of, because we all have different licensures and things like that. And so I just want to make sure that we all were competent, and it was in line with how the state does things. And so we do that. Yeah, it is something that, like you said, not to turn down, but be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
And I'll say we collect a lot of information about these individuals, probably more than we need to. But in my mind, it's like, if something does go wrong, we can go back and look at all of that information and say, okay, what did we miss? What variable here maybe played a role in this? And so then going forward, we can say, okay, if someone is possibly presenting with such behavior or something that the assessment is spitting out in the sense of interpretation, we can know that maybe that's a red flag. But so it's it's been good. We've been doing that, man. I think we've been doing that about 4 years now, maybe 3. We're probably into our 4th year.
Yeah.
And so it's been good. It's been rewarding. It's been, you're running a lot of different types of people that's coming in and wanting to do it, and you run into those say, I kind of think that's, I don't think it's going to work out. And then some like, this person seemed like a great fit. So, yeah.
I'm intrigued. I mean, I am intrigued by this, but I wanted to ask one more thing on that because I won't keep you all day. And the main thing when you're looking for a law enforcement officer who might be out on the streets and stuff and dealing with the public, are you looking for mainly someone, of course, with as little bias as possible? I think everybody has one way or another brings things to the table, but also from a reactive standpoint, how do they deal with stress? I mean, what's the real fine line, the cutting point right there?
Yeah, it is. You mentioned one thing. So 3 things that pop into mind, but definitely is way more than 3 things that we consider. But when you think about how someone handles stress, how someone, because we do an assessment of adjustment, so how they adjust to things.
Yeah.
That adjustment, and it's not always related to stress, but adjustment. But then also substance abuse. That's definitely, if someone has that, then they definitely won't be qualified if we have some indication that that's going on. And then you also look at, how they handle, criticism. Yeah. If they have, I'm trying to think of how we word it in the sense of, if they have some type of rigid, inflexible way of thinking. Yeah. So, that plays a role, and just a couple of, a lot of other things as well, if they're dealing with certain things. So, we do. So we try to measure that. And even if you get down to, because I know some of the concerns in our society has been, how people feel about each other, that type of thing. But you can flesh that out as well to some degree. It's really hard to, if someone is truly, and if they're doing something unintentionally, right? Yes. Because you do have unintentional prejudices and things like that go on. But yeah, it is. It's a process, and we do try to understand that, and hopefully, like I said, get good people out there on the streets. And the other 4 hours of the day, you take a nap, right? I take my naps I try to get naps in on Sunday if I can, but yeah. Dr. Teague, it's always a pleasure, man. I really appreciate you coming on the Tim May podcast again, but and we'll be in touch more as this season rolls around, et cetera. And I just got a feeling Master Teague III is finally going to come into his total self this fall, and I just think it's going to be an interesting fall, like you said. I mean, when you look at this offense at Ohio State, it's got a chance to be better than last year if that signal caller, that quarterback, and let's face it, they got three talented guys going for that quarterback spot, and yeah, man, that spring game was, I enjoyed watching that. I'm like, man, I knew, we were looking at, I know, 2 guys that always, with CJ, I think I'm saying that right. CJ Stroud, yeah. CJ Jack Miller, and then you saw the McCord, I think I'm saying it right. Yes. Saw him throw the ball, like, man, these guys can. That's All those guys are talented.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, Ohio State, you got to admit, Ohio State's got it going on from a recruiting standpoint, right? I mean, yeah, and you've been part of it, and you still are part of it. So, Dr. Teague, appreciate it, and we'll touch bases again, my man. Thank you very much.
Are you welcome?
You know, I really want to thank Dr. Corey M. Teague for joining the Tim May podcast again to talk about the allegation of a manufactured response by the Football Parents Association of Ohio State and others last year in dealing with the pandemic and trying to get the Big Ten off its rear end and have the season in the fall instead of possibly the spring and stuff. What a disaster that would have turned into. What do you think, Jeremy Birmingham?
Yeah, Tim, I mean, if you look at how the season played out, it was sort of a disaster for a lot of folks anyway. So imagine it, 6 months later. I guess that, all's well that ends well. Ohio State played in the national championship game, and Kevin Warren has proven once again that he is not exactly interested in making friends in his new job as commissioner of the Big Ten.
Yeah, pretty interesting way to go about steering a conference. But I'm sure there was a lot more involved than what I'm thinking, than what we're thinking. But I really appreciate Dr. Corey M. Teague coming on, of course, the father of Master Teague III, and also giving some insight into what's going on with his son right now, and also the running backs room and, Ohio State football in general, especially that offense. It could be potent this year, right, Jeremy?
All about the QB, baby. All about QB. Find someone who can distribute the ball and get it out quick and not turn it over. And the Buckeyes offense should be as good as any offense in recent history. Yeah,
I just got back from covering the Indy 500 again consecutively since 1985. And as I told Dr. Teague, I mean, this Ohio State offense is just ridiculous car, man. And you just want a quarterback to get in there and push the gas, right?
Right. You just need to make sure that you have a pit guy that knows how to put a tire on.
Yeah, or take it off. There's right. all kinds of things involved there.
As long as your lug nut is screwed tightly, that's the important thing.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, always keep your lug nuts tight. And that's the lesson for today. But the reason I've got the inimitable Jeremy Birmingham joining the Tim May podcast this week instead of Awesome Ward is, number one, we're recording this on a holiday, Memorial Day. It's kind of hard to call that a holiday, but it is what it is. But the bottom line is I wanted to get you on to talk about this really interesting situation with JT Tuimoloau, the last remaining big-time recruit of the 2021 recruiting cycle. And, even right now, as I think about it, I think about him and Jack Sawyer on the same team, freshman. That would be unbelievable if he comes to Ohio State, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's the number one player in the country for a reason. He's 6'5", he's 280 pounds. He's a good enough athlete to be offered basketball scholarships by Washington and Oregon. And a good enough athlete that if he wanted to play basketball at Ohio State, they would probably have to consider allowing him to do so. He's big, he's nimble, he's strong. He is, one of those rare players that separates the great teams from the good teams. And he's a player that's so good that even though his recruitment has extended this long, and now here we are June 1st, like this is all he's been waiting for, Tim, is the opportunity to go back and visit the schools that he's interested in, because this recruitment could have been over literally 15 months ago if he would have been able to visit Ohio State when he originally scheduled his official visit in March of 2020. There was a lot of talk that visit then was going to be the end of the recruitment. And now here we are 15 months later. And it's not that cut and dry, obviously. There's time separates people from emotions, and you get an opportunity to step back and really view things from a logical standpoint. He's going to take 5 official visits starting this weekend with the first trip to Washington. Then he's going to take a week off. And then he's taking 4 official visits in 14 days to USC, to Ohio State, to Oregon, to Alabama.
Wow. Those are some frequent flyer miles when you think about it, right?
It doesn't make sense. I mean, from a strictly, logistical standpoint, you would have thought that there could have been like a circuitous route that he took instead of going, like he's going to Washington first, then to USC, then to Ohio, then to Oregon, then to Alabama. I would have taken probably a little family road trip and just done a little loop of the U.S. But,
me too, but people don't think like me and you, Jeremy. Thank goodness people don't think like you and I. Bottom line is, what's your take on it? I mean, he will bring he will be an instant presence. You have to believe wherever he goes, right? Even though, he'll be showing up at the start of summer. He will be an instant presence, won't he be? I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know if instant impact is the right term for him. He has the potential to be that guy.
He's too good not to play early, and no matter where he ends up. But the real rub here, Tim, is the way that this schedule is now shaken out. It's almost appearing like he's not, unless he's chosen in his mind that he's going to Alabama, and then he takes that official visit to Bama on the 25th through the 27th of June, and then enrolls for their classes on the 29th, which I think is, a realistic possibility. If that's not his plan, he's not going anywhere until he shows up somewhere in August. So it's not even like he's showing up for the start of summer workouts. He's not going to be able to show up anywhere till fall.
Yeah.
And so it does make it a little bit more difficult to get on the field, but sometimes when you have a talent like that, you just put him out there and let him get loose. And, that's some of the intrigue here to the layers of this recruitment that are really causing some headaches and concerns for Ohio State. I think that they believed that him coming to Ohio State on the 18th through the 20th put them in a position for him to enroll on classes that begin on the 22nd of June. Right now, the intention is to take the official visits to Oregon and Alabama right after. So if he takes those visits, he cannot enroll at Ohio State this summer. And if he can't enroll at Ohio State this summer, then he's got to wait until August. So that's when things get a little bit dicey.
Well, you being an intrepid reporter on recruiting goings on, I would encourage you or Spence be at the airport when he gets off the plane, see how many bags he has with him. If you follow my drift, if he's just there for the weekend or for 2 days, he'll have a little overnight. If he's got 4 suitcases, he's moving in. Same place at Tuscaloosa Regional Airport where my dad used to catch flights. We'd drive up from Demopolis. Be there, man. That's where Nick Saban flew in with all his gear. So it could be very interesting. But, I would think that even though summer school starts, like you said, at Ohio State right after his visit, you can late enroll, right? I mean, I know people.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think that's the question. I mean, there's certainly going to.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
If there's anyone that would have wiggle room, you'd figure Ohio State would, stomp the floor a little bit for that to happen with JT Tuimoloau. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how the registrar's office works at Ohio State, unfortunately. I do know that what the calendar says. And I know there's been some discussion about maybe a shortened summer schedule that starts at like the second week of July. That's not what I was told by people that I talked to and trusted Ohio State. They told me that if he's not there by June 25th, then he can't enroll for the summer. So gotcha. I guess we'll see. They could be wrong. I mean, again, I don't know. I mean, I know that you have heard through the years, Tim, the big time football programs always find a way to get the guys in that they want to get in. Yeah. I don't think Alabama is concerned about a June 29th deadline. So, I mean, I don't know if Ohio State wants to travel down that road or not. The point is they got to blow him away on the official visit one way or the other, because if you don't go out there and hit an absolute home run on that trip, and he takes the trips to Oregon or Alabama, or whether or not he doesn't, you got to hit a home run to make sure that he's even thinking about not going on those trips.
Berm, how many times, I mean, can you remember? Because I'm trying to remember anything going on this late with this quality of a football player. I mean, I can't recall it at all. And I'm not, like you just said earlier, this is what you were inferring. I think it's smart of him to not just go somewhere. I mean, remember J.K. Dobbins signed with Ohio State and never visited, or committed to Ohio State and never visited. I mean, that worked out okay for J.K. Dobbins and Ohio State, but I think it's smart to at least make a visit. I mean, all you're seeing is things on videos, et cetera. You're seeing these teams play from afar. You're seeing their stadiums, et cetera, from afar. But I think it behooves anyone to at least see where they might be moving and get a feel for the place. And like you said, the pandemic changed everything when it came to recruiting, as you guys have documented over the last week or so, where Ohio State's going to have this week especially is a huge, huge official visits start finally after the pandemic, and just the balls in the air that Ohio State, Mark Pantoni and his group are dealing with. But I can't remember this quality of a player going this late before deciding where he was going. Do you?
No, I mean, obviously Terrell Pryor waited until early April, I believe, or late March, early April when he decided. But with Terrell Pryor, it was different because it was always sort of Ohio State and him just sort of pushing things off. And maybe it was for attention. Maybe it was he was trying to placate his father who wanted him to look at other schools. I don't know. But Ohio State kind of always knew that where they stood. And with JT Tuimoloau right now, they've always felt that they're in a good spot. They always feel like, okay, they're in the mix here, but they're the only school he's not visited before. He's been to Alabama before. He's been to Oregon. He's been to USC. He's been to Washington. And so if you look at it from that perspective and say, oh, he's waited this long just to visit Ohio State, then you start to feel like, hey, there's obviously a reason he's waited this long. Things that are most important to JTT are getting to the NFL, period. And there's nobody that makes defensive ends into NFL defensive ends better than Larry Johnson. And so you certainly think that the Buckeyes like the position that they're in heading into this month, but you also know full well that Nick Saban having the final say is nerve-wracking. And that's not something any school wants to face. You don't want to be in a position where Nick Saban has the opportunity to get a final word in. It's pretty easy for him to recruit at this point. Alabama sells itself. No player that he's recruited to Alabama hasn't won a national championship if they've been there 4 years. They constantly are putting, 10 draft picks a year, just like Ohio State. So it's all about personality and fit, and it's going to be interesting. Last year, Zach Evans, who was the 5-star running back from Texas, he was late. I don't think he made a decision until he arrived somewhere in June. But that's because a lot of schools weren't sure if they were going to take him. There were some off-the-field questions and that sort of stuff. And so that's a different scenario. This is a kid who's just decided, and again, I think extremely smartly, he decided months ago he was just going to be in control of his recruitment. He was not going to allow the conventional timelines, the calendars, the pressures of, signing day. None of those things matter. He's an 18-year-old young man. He can decide at any time he wants. He doesn't need to sign a letter of intent. He can show up the day before practice starts if he wants at any one of these schools, and none of them are going to tell him no. And I think it's a sign of what's really changing in not just recruiting, but in college athletics, period. The power of the game is in the hands of the player now, and you started to see that sort of empowerment happen, and that it naturally those things always trickle down. And I don't know that this is something college coaches are going to want to see regularly, but it certainly adds a different layer of things. And there is the benefit for Ohio State, Tim. Now that name, image, and likeness legislation is underway in Ohio and is likely to be passed before July or on July 2nd, now all of a sudden you have an extra card to play when you're talking to JT Tuimoloau, because Oregon's doing that with Nike and the opportunities there. Washington's doing that with being a hometown hero there in Seattle. That USC is, the California, the big time star power of Los Angeles. So Ohio State obviously has been at the tip of the spear when it comes to branding players and providing this platform over the last few years with Real Life Wednesday, with Brand U, with now the platform that they're working with Open Doors. It's just another card to play. And so maybe that timing actually helps Ohio State.
Dude, I want to tell you something. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to that last part of that soliloquy you were on there, and I'm just going, that's exactly where I was headed from the standpoint. I was going to ask you how much that would help from an attraction standpoint, and you just jumped right in there. That's why you and I get along, I think. Some people think we don't like each other. It is exactly the opposite of don't like each other. Whatever
we're
that
too
is.
Much alike, Tim. We're too much alike.
Yeah, exactly. So the way that's it. Maybe
it's
not that we don't like each other, it's that we're like each other. But I digress.
Terrifying to think of.
Yeah. Real quick though, how much do you think that name, image, and likeness situation is going to play in the next month? I mean, we're talking about, JT Tuimoloau. I mean, obviously they want him, but they were having all these official visits coming in. They can at least point to the fact of what you're talking about, all the possibilities coming up for them in the name, image, and likeness realm. How much is that going to weigh, you think, in recruiting going forward across the country?
I mean, it's certainly going to be something that's regularly discussed. I mean, I don't know, exactly how much to expect Ohio State to be the one pushing it. I think that their ideal situation would be to answer questions as opposed to using it as a as a recruiting tool. I think that their preference would be to be sort of hands off and say, this is what Ohio's legislation says. It says we can't stop you. So we're here to help you, but we're not here to necessarily push you in a direction. And, I think what's interesting, Tim, is if you can find a way, or Ohio State, as they work through this process and work with Open Doors and these other, branding companies.
Opportunities, yeah.
The way that they can tie that in with Real Life Wednesdays is going to be very interesting to me, because these are not necessarily just educational meetings now. These are actually introductory meetings to say, hey, this is Tom. Tom runs Fortune 500 company A, and now you know him, and there's a lot of ways that this can be facilitated without Ohio State actually directly promoting the idea that players are going to be getting money for their name, image, and likeness, which they should. I mean, obviously that's, the crux of the entire legislation is that these players should just not be hampered from taking advantage of what their success affords them. And again, I don't think the Buckeyes are going to be pushing it, but they're certainly going to make sure the kids know this is available to you in Ohio starting July 2nd. And when you're a player like JT Tuimoloau or, any 5-star type prospect coming out of high school, and I've talked about this with a number of recruits over the years, is that there's few places like Columbus, Ohio. I mean, it is, if you talk about the University of Washington is one, the University of Texas is another, and Ohio State is probably the third. You're talking college cities. Yeah. These are not the same as college towns. And I know everyone loves Tuscaloosa, everyone loves Clemson, South Carolina, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Madison, Wisconsin. Those are college towns. This is a college city. There is a whole big world out there. And the difference between Los Angeles, for example, with USC and UCLA, nobody cares about football out there. Then when you're talking Austin, Texas, Columbus, Ohio, that is a whole different ball of wax when it comes to the opportunities that are coming down the pike for these kids. Yeah,
not only that, I mean, I would take Seattle even out of that group and make them 1B, because you still have, the Seahawks, Major League Baseball, et cetera, there. And you're exactly right. I mean, Ohio State football is not just the biggest game in town; it's the biggest game in the state. When you think about the omnipresence it has around the state of Ohio and regionally. I mean, really, Berm, even nationally, because Ohio State is definitely a national brand, maybe even international. Now I'm really expanding this. Next thing you know, it is the largest. Signs on the moon, go Bucks, but it is.
It's the largest alumni base in the country. Yeah. I mean, you don't go anywhere without there being an Ohio influence and without Ohio State fans. I mean, even talking recently to DJ Ungalalele, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, and I apologize. His father, Dave. I mean, Dave was talking about Mateo, his sophomore son, who's a top, he's a potential 5-star in the class of 2023. And he said, hey, even in California, even in Los Angeles, there's a ton of Buckeyes fans. They see it all the time. They know that brand stretches in a different direction than most. And it's certainly go to Phoenix, Arizona, and it's an Ohio State city. So it's interesting for kids to see that. And I think maybe now that you start to look at it from how could this benefit me financially, it is difficult to see that now and not immediately tie that to potential dollars. And as Gene Smith said last week, he was more worried about the fact that it was going to separate the haves from the have-nots way more than he was worried about anything else. And I don't see how it couldn't do that. The only thing that's going to happen is schools like Ohio State, schools like Alabama, Texas, et cetera, are going to absolutely just dominate even more than they have.
I think crush it's the word you're looking for there. And you're right. Sure. I mean, you're an Ohio State football player. You can have a name, image, and likeness situation in San Diego or Scottsdale or, Fort Myers, Florida, or wherever. I mean, you could have a hookup. And so that's where we're headed. What do you think, Jeremy Birmingham? Is college football going to survive this? In the way we see college football?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know how long it takes to erode it to the point where we drop the veil of, amateurism to the point where it, but I mean, I think we all know we're heading to like a Power 5, break away from the rest of college football. And, whether it's just the ACC, SEC, and Big 12. I mean, something's coming. So it's going to be changing. We've come too far down the road to stop it now. And the people who love college football for the history and the tradition and the amateurism, that stuff's still going to be there. There's still going to be the band. There's still going to be cheerleaders. But let's be honest. I mean, you have the SEC making $600 million a year. I mean, that money is too much, and it doesn't behoove the MAC or the Mountain West to try to play in the same sport that they are, because that's just not comparable. So there's definitely changes. I mean, football is great no matter what. I still watch the NFL. I don't love it the way I've always loved college football, but it's changing. The times, Tim, they are changing.
You're going to start singing, or you don't have a guitar sitting there, right? Already tuned. It's
it's downstairs.
Okay. It's downstairs. Oh, man. Hey, Jeremy Birmingham, thanks for joining the Tim May podcast. It's always a blast, and I always enjoy talking with you, because it's not that we don't like each other. It's that we are like each other, right? I think that's a good way to put it.
I think it's the best way to put it. I'm just gearing up for June, man. It's going to be a crazy month on the recruiting trail. 17 official visitors coming this weekend, and upwards of 50 for the entire month. There's nothing comparable, right? I mean, has there been anything comparable in your lifetime of covering recruiting we're going to see in the next 3 weeks? No, I mean, like Mark Pantoni said last Friday, I mean, the Buckeyes normally run somewhere between 42 to 44 to 45 official visits for an entire year.
Yeah.
And they have 50 scheduled for June. So it is going to be a madhouse. And I think it's going to actually, I mean, not to keep talking too much, but it's going to actually turn the season into a very interesting discussion, because there's going to be a handful of coaches on that, in that locker room that want to bring in, okay, I need to get this guy here. I need to get this guy here. There's going to be some battles over which players are actually worth bringing in for those final 10 official visits, and how many of them you hold back for the late bloomers and kids that, pop up in California or Georgia or Texas in November. So it's going to be fascinating to watch how Mark Pantoni and Aaron Dunston and that recruiting machine figure out a way to organize this, because it's nothing like I've ever seen before.
Well, I wish I was an Uber driver right now, man. I can make some money this next coming weeks, but I digress.
Hey, it's never too late to start, Tim.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable Jeremy Birmingham, thanks for joining the Tim May podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, that'll bring to a close another podcast. And I appreciate you folks listening and watching. And until next time, we'll see you then.